All right. Should be seeing it come live. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And
Recording
here we
my screen,
go.
we are. All right.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Welcome, everybody. We will have another guest probably joining us shortly. For now, my name is Angelo. I play Gola, and I have with us the producer of Underlight, and his name is Brian, and he plays Wishbringer. So, Wishbringer, why don't you introduce yourself? Give us a little bio.
I get to introduce myself after I was introduced.
Your bio part.
All right. Well, I'm Brian Clementoni. I'm the producer of this little project, and we've been doing this for 4 years, and every year we have new content. Lots of old players still sticking around. So we're pretty excited about this upcoming year and the years ahead.
Awesome. All right. So we have another guest joining, but in the meantime, you're going to give us a live walkthrough of the changes and updates in 3.6. Is that correct?
Right. I think we'll do a little bit of review of 0.5 as well.
Okay.
For those who don't know what's in there.
Sounds like a plan. So, all right, everybody, hold on to your seats. We're going to dive in here.
There, can you see that?
I can see it on the Hangouts. We're waiting to see if it comes up on the YouTube.
Alrighty.
There it is. All right, you're live, and it's all you guys.
All right, as you can see, I've got this gentleman across the way from me, and we're going to review some of the changes that have that happened in 0.5, as well as the ones that were just released in 0.6. So, again, for those of you, some of you guys may have watched the video that we put out yesterday, so a lot of this may be a little bit of repeat, but I'm going to go ahead and cover them again anyway, just because. In 0.5, one of the big changes was to Razor Wind, which kind of gave us an opportunity to introduce a new ability that we have in the client, which is that of area effect abilities. It is the first art that kind of has a localized area effect, and that is Razor Wind for Fate Senders. So, if I was to evoke Razor Wind now, and let me find it, it'll still do its standard Razor Wind ability, but you'll notice on the ground it has dropped this sword, and if Geo was to walk up on the sword, it will continue to damage him. One of the things that's kind of slick about this as well is you can drop a few of these, either in the same spot, or you can kind of drop them around the room and put yourself in a position to have a few of these almost kind of like little protective, little offensive weapons laying about. Now, granted, they only last a specific period of time, again, based on your plat and orbit of the Razor Wind, but it's a neat little function there.
Mm-hmm. And its duration is based on the actual same absorption rate of the city absorbing items that reap without a cachet type effect, right?
Right. So it'll still vapor.
All right.
So that was a big one. And like I said, one of the cool things that it did is really give us our first art with a, kind of an area effect item that drops in the ground. In future arts, we may explore this concept with additional arts. Not really sure, but it has opened up the concept, and this is the first one that does it. And one of the big things that it really did for the Fate Senders is I know there's a number of Fate Senders that really don't care too much for Razor Wind because it really wasn't an effective combat art, and it wasn't very effective even for hunting because of its cost. It just felt like the damage was a little bit, quicker and faster with Firestorm, and now with Razor Wind, you can drop one of those suckers on the ground and run around a Shamblix and pull it in onto you, and it's going to constantly get hit by it. And, it should make fighting a little bit interesting, and wars and battles and stuff like that will be interesting with this art.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So the other thing that we did in 0.5 was we introduced a new art, which hasn't been released into the wild yet, and players can anticipate some of these new arts that we're going to discuss coming into play, over the next few weeks. Is a new GK art called Bulwark, which is right here, and I'm going to invoke it. And you notice what it's going to do is it's going to say you fortify yourself with your power of will. What this art does is, in combination of a shield, it'll actually absorb a percentage of the damage out of the gate before it actually passes onto your shield. So part of it will be taken by the Bulwark art that's on you, and then the leftover damage will go to your shield, and your shield will do its standard absorption, and then of course the rest of it will pass on to the player.
Okay, and this is a GK major, right?
This is a GK major, so no other focus will get this art, but it really kind of addresses that additional piece to the gatekeepers of being kind of the warrior class, kind of that front line,
sort of like tanks in other games. We're
right.
A tank. Yeah, I got you.
Now, it certainly doesn't, it's not powerful enough to replace a shield, but, every little bit counts. And I think the gatekeepers will find it interesting, and they'll be able to play with it and see see the functionality within the city.
I believe so too.
Some of the other big big changes that happened in 0.5 is obviously the chaos walls were increased. As you can tell here, I have chaos wall at 99, and if I was to right click on one here, you can see that this chaos wall contains 0 essences, can hold 200 and up to 4,000 strength, which is a dramatic increase to what they were before. So players will see that as well with their chaos walls. Will be substantially more space that they'll be able to utilize those 4 instead of carrying 2 or 3 or 4 of these. You can carry 1 and carry a considerable amount of strength. And I'm going to come back to this art a little later in 0.6 because we did make another big change that will affect this art more from a role-playing standpoint, but I'll go over that when we get to 0.6.
Excellent.
There was some other minor changes. I think the biggest change will be one that the players won't necessarily see, and that had a lot to do with that area effect ability, especially with GM support. Things like that, we'll be able to create some pretty nifty items for different role-play situations, various functions within the city to be able to support different things. And a lot of that is one of the things that's kind of neat about it is some of these items, because of the fact that they're going to have area effects and evoke arts all of their own, whether you're within proximity, whether they do it to the whole room or however we set them up, that it won't need as much of a GM to be there at that very moment, which I think is kind of cool. It allows players to not necessarily rely on us so much once they have a couple of these items maybe in play, to be able to leave these in and players can interact with them or role play with them accordingly. And we're not really sure exactly what, when, what, how, these will be used. That's one thing that's really cool about role playing in general. It's very dynamic, but we've opened up some of those avenues and doors that we've never had before with some very cool dynamic items. There are some other minor changes in 0.5. Most of them are insignificant and back end stuff, but those are the big ones. And then if we don't really have any, does anybody have any questions or anything before we move on to 0.6?
I don't see any posted yet.
All right. Well, as anybody who's played it all today, 0.6 came out late last night, and we released that today. We actually will be doing a patch first thing in the morning tomorrow because we did find a little minor bug with invisibility, but that has already been addressed and will be taken care of in the morning. But some of the big changes that came with this particular build, one of them I think is very critical to new players and even actually pretty much to everybody. It was one of those things, like I said in the video last night, that was kind of out of sight, out of mind until it really popped up, and that had to do with XP gains. You know, I don't know how many times people have been in situations where they were just, you know, so close to defeating something and they got it, and then, you know, next thing they got 3 experience points for it because they were at their orbit cap.
Yeah, that was a kicker for a lot of people.
Right. And most of the time people weren't really aware of their situation or how close they were. And it just like, you know, shoot, I just lost, you know, whatever, 10,000, 100,000. I mean, it could be dramatically worse, millions of experience points, depending on what orbit you were at, that you were no longer getting that XP. Well, we've changed that cap. No longer will it top off at an orbit. It will simply top off at one of the orbit 9s. So 19, you know, 29, 39, 49, those will be your maxes. But any experience points that you get prior to that, prior to a sphere, will be maximum. So in theory, an orbit, you know, brand new player can come into the city and, you know, join party with a high powered player, and the high powered player takes out a dark mirror, and they'll just be, you know, the XP would be enough to bring that player completely from orbit 0 to orbit 9 in one kill. You know, or even so at you know, sphere 1, you know, you can go from 10 to 19 in a, you know, single kill, and you know, those situations will probably be far between, but it's theoretically possible now. But even the high sphere players will definitely reap the rewards from it. There's, you know, being at 77th orbit, you know, and you're taking on you know, you're in a battle situation, maybe you're taking on a dark mirror, maybe you're fighting a high powered player for whatever reason, and that player's worth, you know, millions of experience points, and you know, you were only 10 points away, or 100 points, or even 10,000 points away from the next orbit, and that's all you would gain from that battle. And no longer you'll gain all the XP that you would have earned up and until that orbit max at 9.
I can see the benefit to that, definitely.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's been a long time coming, and it's just one of those things we don't think about until, you know, somebody took the moment to say, hey, you know what, let's fix this. So
Agreed.
that was a big one. Another thing that we changed in 0.6, which will come in pretty handy, again, in battle type situations, or in, you know, just in protecting yourself situations, has to do with recall. And that is that recall is no longer abjurable. So it used to be you could be in a situation where you could be abjured in a, you know, all your arts would be abjured in a room, and you'd be warded in there, and you got collapsed, and you'd be stuck as a floaty until the ward dropped or somebody let you out. And meanwhile, you'd be, you know, taking some verbal onslaught from your enemy or in the situation. No longer, you know, will that occur. Recall will not be abjurable. So if you have recall set and you've got a safe place, or sanctuary or a room or something, you'll be able to recall to that no matter what the situation is. And one of the things you hit on last night, which is kind of important too, is, you know, how many times have people been on Soul Sphere and been in a situation where they stormed and lost that additional XP because they just couldn't get to a sanctuary before, you know, their computer kicked them or the server dropped them, or for whatever reason.
Yeah, because the game mechanics doesn't show a difference between battle weekend versus storming. It doesn't know. Right,
it has no idea. And so now, you know, as soon as you're collapsed, you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be, you know, at a sanctuary. Hopefully, you've set recall at a sanctuary. So another.
So if you have recall on right now, that other character there cannot abjure it from you.
Correct.
Did we demonstrate that?
Gio, I don't know if you can hear me. I assume you can. Do you have abjure on Gio? Jump if you can hear me. Talk. Maybe he's not there.
There, I hear something.
I heard him. Do you have abjure on Geo?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and set recall on a couple other arts. If you could abjure me, please.
No problem. Give me 1 second.
Okay, so I have set recall, put free action on myself.
And I think you have bulwark on too, so.
Yeah, let's see. I've got bulwark, recall, and free action. So Gio's going to go ahead and abjure me.
Here I go.
Or abjure himself, whichever the case may be. All right, so the only thing left on me is recall, and go ahead and observe me one more time, and you'll know. You see, recall is still staying on.
Yep.
Thanks, Gio.
Awesome. So your entire team has been very hard at work at a lot of these upgrades, taking into account player needs versus game balance. So that I think was not only was that needed for player need, but balance as well.
Right. And also protecting the players too from those storms and those situations, and from putting themselves in situations where they were simply trapped to a verbal onslaught.
Yeah.
So as anybody knows, in a lot of the warring situations, they're typically not like, "Hey, good fight." There's a lot of argumentative stuff, and sometimes things get heated, situations, or whatever. And now, if you've got recall, you're going to get out of the situation. You can prep yourself back to come back into the fight, or walk away, or whatever, your choice. But you're not forced to sit through it as long as you have your recall on.
Excellent.
So another change, and this one, which was really interesting today, as I was interacting with some of the players today, has to do with invisibility. Invisibility has been kind of that one art that at one point was kind of the cool art. It was neat, and then it got nerfed a few times over the years, and not too many players use it for much of anything anymore, except for maybe doing a little bit of hunting with it. But now invisibility has gotten a pretty good overhaul, and the big changes to it has to do with the effects that happen to you when it's on, and also the things that no longer work with it, which invisibility now is immune to vision. So, Gio, do you have invisibility on your character?
Yes.
Okay.
I would hope so. He's a dream seer.
That's true. Go ahead and invoke invisibility on you yourself, and then I'm going to put vision on myself.
Okay, here I go.
And obviously he's gone. I'm going to evoke vision, and as you can see, I cannot see him.
So even dream seers can't see other dream seers then.
Correct. Nobody can see an invisible player. Now, granted, they do still show up in the who list, so I can still see him up there, which means I can target him, and I can see where the fire is coming from when he does an attack.
Yep.
And I can fire back, or I can miss.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I'm in front of you. Now.
He was. There you go.
And then you can see I hit him there while he was invisible. So,
okay. And they could still be abjured. They could still be paralyzed, scared, etc. Even invisible. Yep.
Yeah. Poisoned. Whatever. Obviously, your area effect, razor wind, firestorm, poison cloud, all those different things will still affect the dreamer. And then some of the things then also that we did to kind of offset them from being a little bit overpowered and just kind of being invisible all the time and coming in and attacking players, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it aside from the fact that they're obviously targetable. Number one, they cannot use their chakrams, which can be highly powerful, very high damage with effect items. So Gio would not have been able to use his chakrams in that situation. He will not be able to use his offensive arts will be at 50% of their capability. So I'm not sure what orbit Gio is, but let's just assume he's 80. His blast will be at the effect of 40. So he cannot evoke it nearly as fast and do nearly as much damage as he would have been able to do if he was not invisible.
All right. Christy has a question.
Sure.
Regarding blast when it comes to using invisibility. Will blast affect, assuming it's LOS as always with invis?
From the attacker standpoint, it will not. If I was to see, I cannot see him now. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to blast him.
But the blaster can blast you.
Right, because he can see me. So as you can see, blast failed. You need a clear line of sight of the target's vulnerable areas, which that key word in there is clear line of sight. I have no sight, so I cannot see him. However, if I was invisible and he was invisible, neither one of us could blast each other.
So a Dream Seer versus a Dream Seer with invisibility, both trying to attack one another, they'd only be able to use toggle arts that you have to target the person on with the mouse.
Yeah,
Okay.
they'll be almost at a stalemate.
Yeah. And now, in effect, blast, inflame, and blade, those damages are halved when you're invisible only.
Right. Essentially, the art is halved. So basically, whatever orbit you have, it's at half that power. So if you're at 80, you're at 40. If you're at 40, you're at 20.
Gotcha.
So that way, you pull down the damage traumatically. It's kind of what you give up a little bit with the invisibility. You want to have that extra edge in a fight. You're going to have to give up a lot. You're going to have to give up some damage capabilities, which removing chakrams was a huge piece of that. And
now the build has been out for several hours now. Have you received any feedback in relation to the chakram thing or anything?
Not so much the chakram. I know some of the folks are a little disturbed from the hunting standpoint because it's definitely going to be a little bit more of a challenge.
Okay.
But there are, some of the benefits we feel outweigh the negatives. I mean, there are going to be players who, maybe less of an aggressive style of player that are going to be able to use invisibility to even escape situations or be able to support other players in situations without having to be worried, about being, fired upon or.
Yeah, somebody tapping a vision alt and being able to target you. All right, Chrissy has another question. What happens? I think I might be able to answer this. What happens when you blend with Invis? Does the blend level or Camille level drop based on the effect of invisibility? I think it's only on offensive arts.
Correct. So,
Right.
So you're looking at blast. Your flame will be at half damage. Half damage, half level. Your restore, your free action, your resist fears, your blends, your combines, your reweaves, anything like that. That's doesn't really have anything to do with attacking another player.
Let me follow that. Let me follow that up when you're done with another question too.
Right. Well, that pretty much summed it up. It's basically the offensive, the attacking style of arts.
So what about dual focus, Dreamseer Gatekeeper?
Same type of situation. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we are going with the patch that is fixing a minor invisibility bug tonight is going to also make sure that takes into consideration the dual focuses and multi-light. So basically, it's going to be all offensive art. So theoretically, you could have a Dreamseer multi-focused with a Fate Sender, and even the Fate Sender's arts, the offensive arts, will be at half power.
And that includes like Razor Wind.
Right.
Okay, cool. All right.
Right. So obviously an invisible Fate Sender with Razor Wind is still going to do a lot of damage, but at level 80, 90 Razor Wind, dropping down to 4th, it's still, that's still damage, but it's not nearly as bad as it would be if they were at full power, obviously.
All right, let me reread Christy's question because she rewrote it. Okay. No, I mean blend Camille. You don't. Will it drop the invis if you blend or Camille? I don't think it does. Let me see. Let's test it.
It won't with blend. I'm not sure about Camille, actually. Honestly, I don't know what.
I can try right now.
Yeah, so he's so Geo right now is invisible. Go ahead and Camille yourself.
Okay. Let me evoke an offensive art real quick.
Nope.
Just invoke invisibility again. That's another thing about invisibility. It will not stack. If you evoke it a second time, it will remove it. Similar to the way Nightmare Form was changed a few builds ago.
Will Abjure be at half power for dual focuses, you mean? If they're like Dreamseer and Soulmaster?
Right.
Will that Abjure...
Yeah, any offensive art will be at half.
All right,
ability. So Abjure will be slower.
Abjure will be slower, Harkin.
All right, so go ahead and evoke invisibility and then put Camille on.
Okay.
So there's invisibility. He's gone. Actually, I'm going to put vision on myself.
I just evoked Camille.
Okay.
And obviously the invisibility is
still on. Well, fire or flame.
See, he's
There you go. Okay.
yeah, the invisibility takes precedence.
All right. So there you go. So basically what this does is it truly gives a real invisibility back to the Dream Seers,
Right.
where even Dream Seers with vision cannot see you.
Correct.
That holds the same for the Horns and the Shamblixes and even the Dark Mares and Daymares, correct? None of these beings will be able to see an invisible Dream Seer.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, if a Dream Seer was to go into the Horon's lair with invisibility on, they do not have to worry about the Horon being able to see them, even if it had vision.
Perfect. So there you go, Chrissy. I know you happen to be a Dream Seer. I think you're. I'm not sure who you are. Are you Lady Silver?
No, I think that's somebody else.
Yeah,
okay.
That's not her.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind though that the invisibility won't last near as long as it did before,
Because it's not stackable.
It's not stackable for one, and the duration is different. And I'm not going to go into the numbers too specifically. We kind of like to let players figure those kind of things out as part of tasks and quests and things.
Oh yeah.
But so you're obviously not going to go in with invisibility the moment you get the art and go in and think you're going to tackle a Horon before it wears off. Considering your damage is already going to be considerably less and you're not going to be able to use chakrams, the challenge will definitely be there to take out a Horon. But again, you're taking out a Horon. Shamblix will be a little bit obviously easier, but again, you're still not going to be able to do it with an unplatted invisibility. There's just not enough time to do enough damage.
Right.
So you'll have to get it up there. But these Dream Seers that have been around for a while that, have invisibility up to 80, 70, they're going to have a significant invisibility time to come in, do quite a bit of damage before they pop back in.
Mm-hmm.
Even at half power.
Well, that was an awesome demonstration of the changes to invisibility in Dream Seers. So I think I actually think this benefits them more long term if they look at the bigger picture.
Right.
Definitely.
So a couple of other new arts in this release. One of them, anybody from the SOT days will recognize Sprint and Enfeeblement. And Gio, do you have Sprint on your character?
No.
All right, well.
You can give me alt of anything.
Yeah, that's true. Hold on just a second.
And for the players wondering where these arts are and stuff, just so you know, I think the GM team is working on getting it added to all the elders in the lead, so the lead can instruct people how to teach it, and you should be seeing it in the next 7 days or so. I don't want anybody to freak out because they don't have it.
Oh, are you full, Gio?
Give me a second.
Gio with his reject all on.
You know it.
Really gonna go set something down? You don't want me to steal it? Here you go. So obviously I infused this item with the ability of Sprint. Before you use it, Gio, just kind of run around normal speed unless you've already popped it on.
All right, before you start that, let me just answer Harkit's question. So Harkit says, how do you collapse an Invis Dream Seer? Well, I demonstrated that with Wishbringer's character. I don't know if we got it recorded, but basically the same exact way that you would attack any other player that you didn't have vision for if they happen to have it in the very rare invisibility altar or Camille on, is you got to use a very fast bouncy chakram or an area of effect art like Firestorm, Raise the Wind, etc. They're still susceptible to the damage, and they still have to stand still to blast you.
And they still have to stand still to Flame Seer.
And
if you're a good fighter, you could target that spot. Or with the bouncy chakram. I mean, we were playing around with that quite a bit yesterday.
Yeah,
It was kind of fun trying to hunt invisible Dream Seers, and we were winning and losing.
Yeah, I used a level 40 chakram bouncy with invisibility effect to keep putting them back in invisible, and I still took them down. And I'm not a fighter, so I can only imagine what a player like Harkin or some of those other fighter characters can do with something like this. You still have the ability, and you could still abjure them, and there's all sorts of things.
Poison, Razor Wind, Firestorm, all of those different arts are still going to be able to be effect. But I think your best thing is a bouncy chakram, and I mean, obviously pick your fights too. If you're in a battle with an invisible dreamer, don't do it in this big open area. If you can if you can control the fight and put it in a position where a bouncy chakram is going to be your best friend, but it does increase their effectiveness in a battle. They're going to be obviously a little bit of a scary situation for that 30, 40, 50 seconds, depending on what orbit they're at, where they're completely invis, and it'll be a little bit of a challenge. But again, they're not going to be able to stack it for 7 minutes of invisibility and just sit there and take out everybody before and they're going to be totally hittable. You can just sit there and fire flame at out in the open and still hit them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a skilled fighter should still be able to take on a Dream Seer of equal level. And again, the better the fighter, the more apt you're going to be to win.
Right.
Harkin has proved countless times that he is a very good fighter. He understands the fighting system. He understands how to do the switching and stuff. So he's really good at what he does.
And a good portion of the players, are Dream Seers. And so those players that maybe don't want to be in a fighting situation are going to be able to just say, hey, you know what? You're going to come into this room invisible. I'm going to go invisible, and I'm just going to walk out. Good luck trying to catch me too. So it gives them, the players that may feel, that they're being hunted by an invisible player, if they are a Dream Seer themselves, or even a member of the Monastery of the Shadow, they could use Shadow Step and go invisible themselves and simply escape the situation.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely does open up a lot of tactical advantages in the game now.
It does,
yeah.
and that's the one thing that we always learn.
Mm-hmm.
We went into it. We did a little bit of play testing ourselves. We did quite a bit of extensive play testing and trying it out. None of us are the greatest fighters there are, but most of us can kind of hold our own for the most part. But
Definitely.
Once it's in the environment, then we can kind of see how it affects what kind of things it does to the community and the feedback. But we did really try to balance this by weakening the Dream Seer a little bit, but at the same time giving them an advantage too. So we hope that the balance plays out.
And we definitely have a very creative player base, so they're definitely going to be able to apply it with very creative uses.
Right.
I mean, yeah. I mean, look at how they adapted to the changes with Reflect. I mean, it's the players are. I mean, they're forever evolving, just like the game is evolving. So there will be definitely some serious pathways that this can be played out.
Mm-hmm. And as per normal, if it gets to a situation where it's just like, okay, we've just determined from a community feedback and a player balance situation that there's just something that needs to be tweaked. As players have seen, over the course of these years, we've always made adjustments when necessary.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah, your team has been very approachable when it comes to suggestions and ideas.
Shall I demonstrate sprint now?
Sure. Yes. I forgot we were even doing that.
All right.
Okay, so Gio's got a sprint.
This is my regular walk right now, so I haven't applied it yet, and now I'm going to apply it. So.
And I would be surprised if the video is actually going to be able to keep up with his speed.
This video can. So now you have sprint on, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's about double the speed, it looks like.
Almost, yeah.
All right. So, okay, that's a really useful travel art. What happens if you do something offensive while you have that on?
He'll lose it. And at the same time, if he's hit by something offensive, he will lose it. So if I was to fire a flame at him or a chakram or whatever, he's going to lose it.
Okay. And that's a balance feature, correct?
Right. One of the big things we wanted to make sure we did with Sprint is it really wanted to be a travel art. We don't want it to be a part of battle situations. We really wanted folks to use it to kind of get from point A to point, C quickly and, as possible. without and actually it's kind of fun, sprinting and taking off. I don't know how many people have tried to run up to a house and they've had to go through whatever 20 rooms or 25 rooms or something to get to the house, and now you can just kind of sprint up there. It's just an interesting way to travel.
All right, we have 10 people watching now, so remember, guys and girls, if you have questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, compliments, we like compliments. Please feel free to type them up in the chat room there.
I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate enfeeblement. So this is me walking really slow.
Now, is that the opposite effect of sprint, 50% slower?
Basically, it drags you down to walk speed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the protective art for this is supposed to be Soul Shield, but it's not in effect. It's one of the things we found in that was missing. Although we may switch that to protection, it's being discussed right now. I'm not sure it's going to actually make it into this build because of the bug, but we'll see. It'll either get fixed or it'll be in 0.7 to make sure that protective feature is in place.
I think Soul Shield would be more useful because it really, I mean, I'm not aware of it doing too much other than preventing Mind Blink.
Robert E. asking a question. He said, hit by anything offensive? Does that include being hit with offensive arts? I believe he's talking in reference to sprint.
All right, so that means like Scare would change, which would remove sprint as well?
I don't think I've actually tested Scare. It's only been a hit, a damage thing. I can certainly put sprint on and we can test it out.
I'm making sprint alt right now, so let's try that out real quick just to get that out the way. So there's sprint. All right.
And for those who are not playing Underlight yet, please understand that there are some arts and abilities you're going to see with these characters that are demonstrated today. They're GM characters, so not everything that they can do you'll be able to do.
So it actually did not take away. It just made me run fast, I believe. Now.
Okay, so Deafen did remove it, or no?
No, I still have it on. So maybe it's susceptible damage for like negative Dream Soul.
Negative Dream Soul damage.
There you go. That worked.
There. Yeah, you got to take a negative Dream Soul.
All right, so Robert, the answer to your question is it has to be an art that removes Dream Soul. So I'm assuming probably Poison maybe would do it. Poison does remove Dream Soul.
Right.
I'll hit and again you can poison me if you have it.
Ready? Yeah.
That worked as well.
All right, so
anything that drains Dream Soul.
All right, so hopefully that answered your question, Robert. That's an imposter, Robert.
All right, so let's see. What else do we have to cover in 0.6?
Peace Aura.
Yes, Peace Aura. Peace Aura reverted back to what it originally was as far as duration. The biggest change that we made to it is that it is AoE member effective only. So you cannot evoke Peace. Well, you can technically evoke it on another player, and it will use a PT and drain your Dream Soul. However, it will not put the Peace Aura effect on that target if they are not a member of the Alliance.
Okay.
It's the same thing actually with Sable Shield and some of the other arts like that. I don't even know if people are even aware of it, but if a member of the Order of the Sable Moon was to evoke Sable Shield on a non-member, it will use their PT and it will drain them the cost. It just will not have put the Sable Shield on the target. So make sure you're targeting the right player.
Gotcha. It's not an offensive art like Break Covenant is supposed to work on other people.
Right.
Gotcha. All right. Now, one of the biggest, I know, side effects to Peace Aura was that it was obdurable in this version, not obdurable in the past version. Is it not obdurable again?
I'm not sure whether that made it in this build or not. I think it is no longer obdurable. I'd have to review my notes. Honestly, wasn't prepared to answer that question.
Do you have the art or the crest?
I can put it on. I can put it on myself.
With yeah, you could use an alt.
Yeah, I'm about to do an alt. Give me one.
You're gonna do it? Okay, and I'll,
Yeah.
I know if you have Peace Aura on you, you can't evoke Abjure.
Yeah, but Brian can, I believe.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I have it on.
Did it remove?
No.
All right, so it's no longer abjurable.
Okay, I thought that was in there. I just didn't remember whether it made it into the release or not.
It's
I still have it
good to
on.
know. All right, that's good to know. So it's back to its 1 minute plus 1 minute per plat. It's house member only, and it's not abjurable. So it truly is a piece art.
Right.
Gotcha.
So there was some other changes, some minor ones. Sacrifice, for example, I think people were complaining quite a bit that the failure rate on that was too high. So we actually literally split that failure rate in half.
Okay.
So it's definitely better. Let's see, actually probably one of the bigger changes will have to do with the game environment, especially going on in the future, has to do with the role-playing aspect, and is the primes and Chaos Well, as I kind of alluded to earlier when I was playing with Chaos Well. One of the big things that a couple of members of our group really were pushing for was to try to get the essences more kind of in line with some of the house beliefs. For example, Banished Nightmare. The houses that and future houses that open that believe in banishing nightmares, their house artifact is going to be altered to a setting where it will only take banished nightmare essences instead of just any old essence. So you will need to banish it in order to be able to utilize it within that house artifact, and it will not take any of the other styles. So one of the keys to that too, as well, as everybody knows, Chaos Wells can hold a lot of essences within them. And as you can see here, I've got 3 standard Chaos Wells here. But if I was to evoke Banish Nightmare on this first Chaos Well, you'll notice that it turned it into a Banished Well. And take on the different symbol here, and this well will now it'll convert the essences within it to banished essences, and it'll only take from that point on banished essences as well. And the same thing goes to with Imprison and Cleanse. So if I was to evoke Cleanse Nightmare on the second one, it changed it to a Cleansed Well. And if I change, let's see, where's Imprison on the last one, and now I have an Imprisoned Well. So I have 3 different wells now that will hold the different style of essences. And that is going to play out to be critical, because as the house beliefs kind of, some of them, there's ones that have, open concept. They really don't really have, banish or cleansing or imprisoning as part of their belief structure. And those will still be able to take essences of pretty much any style. But the houses that really want to adhere to their belief system of cleansing the essences, or imprisoning the nightmare within their artifact, are gonna, this will be a key part of that role playing aspect.
So let's say, as an example, it's not saying for real. As an example, the Order of the Sable Moon is an imprisoned house, and their prime would take on that feature of imprisoned nightmares. They would only be able to accept an imprisoned well.
Correct.
Okay.
So, like, if you just walked up with an infant essence or a Agonite essence or whatnot, and just said, here, one of the members is going to have to imprison it or whatever the belief is before it'll even go into the prime. The prime will not accept it unless it meets the criteria.
That's awesome.
So as players were in the city today, a lot of people were noticing they had those arts available for them to learn, banish, cleanse, and imprison, and they were just like, well, why do I have these? Well, and that will play a key part in the future. And some of the houses may even adapt some of these beliefs a little bit more firmly in order to take advantage of that.
Okay,
role play piece. Yeah. It's more of a role play piece than anything.
Harkin has a question, but your house prime doesn't have to be any of those. It can be all of them, none of them, or specifically targeted, depending on how you're role playing your house.
Right. We have the ability now to change those primes. So, for example, I don't know. What's the give me a prime name? I don't even, HG's is the orbit calenture. We have the ability to now alter that prime. Well, as he hands me the orbit calenture sitting right here.
What can I say? I'm very thorough.
We now have the ability to, and with I don't really want to get into too much of the GM tools here, but we now have the ability to recreate the prime artifact for House Calenture, which will only take imprisoned wells or cleansed wells or whatever specification we set to it, and that is the only style it'll take. As folks have seen before, they'll take, the primes could take any style before, and houses that still have that belief structure will be able to take any style as they always have.
There you go, Harkin. There's the answer to your question. You will still be able to take any of them if that is how your house is role playing.
Right.
Mick Craig in Canada has a question: was what about draining houses?
Well, you'll just be hunted.
That's an Order of the Sable Moon answer. Anyway,
well, there's not
drainer.
The draining. I mean, if you think about draining, the essence is actually drained into your avatar. So there's nothing to, there's nothing to to put into anything because you're putting it into yourself. You're basically consuming it or absorbing it or however you role play how you're using the drain.
In that sense, I would think that your house should be open to all essences since you're going to drain the ones that you're not putting into your prime anyway.
Right. Or maybe you're cleansing them because, you're consuming them for dinner. I'm not sure how you're role playing it out.
Yeah.
But, again, that's going to be, it's primarily a role play function so the leaders and stuff like that, when new initiates and new players come in and they can talk about cleansing the essences and the importance of it. Well, now it will actually be important because they will only take cleansed essences.
Harkin has a statement. Let me answer that for you guys, unless you want to answer. It says, that seems like you are punishing houses for banishing or imprisoning instead of just letting your prime do whatever. Actually, Harkin, the power is in the houses. They will decide what they want their prime to do.
Right.
Based on their belief structure. They will not change anything without the houses wanting it done.
Right. I mean, if a house decides they want to imprison, and like I said, this is purely a role playing tool. There's no punishment or anything.
It's to give rulers more control over what their house belief system is and to enhance their role play. If they strictly want to only accept imprisoned tokens, then that's how they can adapt their prime. If they don't care what kind of essences they take, then the prime will continue to accept whatever it does.
Right. Yeah, we actually have to literally go in and change it or basically recreate the artifact to have that additional attribute that will restrict what it takes. And I think, like I said, it's purely from a role playing standpoint. There's no true negative or positive. There's nothing gained from imprisoning. I mean, except for what the house believes. It's a pure role playing tool.
Only if that's what you choose, Harkin. It's not a punishment unless the house, your rulers, decide to make your house an imprison only house. That's the key. It's up to your house.
Right.
If Purple Lace were to say, write an email to the GM team saying the Bastion is now an imprison only house, and I want my prime to only accept imprison nightmare essences, the GM team would make that change for her. Right. But again, it's on the house. You have to ask for it. The GMs are not going to just randomly go in and change people's primes. That's not how it works.
No, we're not going to just go in and just alter it just for the giggles of it. I mean, it is a role-playing tool, period. There's no punishment. I don't even know how that's a concept of the conversation. It's not a punishment.
Yeah.
It's purely a role-playing tool.
It's a tool for the players to contact the GMs if that's something they want to do. As it stands right now, nobody's primes are set to do anything unless there's emails being sent that I'm unaware of.
Right, or conversations between whatever, and we'll have those as the concept kind of lays out. And houses that'll take advantage of it, and there'll be houses that'll be like, no, I'll just take any old thing, and that's up to the house. It's completely. I mean, nobody even has to take advantage of this at all. It's just an option out there. It's a role playing tool.
If you think back into Lyra days when the house beliefs actually were like really hardcore role played, where like, you know, if you were a draining house, pretty much anybody that cleansed was after you. If you were a cleansing house, pretty much anybody that banished was after you. There's a role play option there for that to change the concept of how houses are today, if the players want it. But again, it comes down to what the players want. If the players don't want to change their prime, they don't have to.
Right. The tool is there. It's a tool.
And the other tools to support that role play, if you decide to become an imprison only or cleanse only or banish only house, the tools are there for you to learn those arts to be able to use them, where originally they were only for specific focuses, weren't they?
Yeah, they were soul. I think they were Soul Master only, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
that's correct.
What if the house says their prime does one thing but keeps the prime as a standard prime?
I mean, if that's the choice the house wants to make, that's fine. I think from a role-playing standpoint, it makes better sense to, you know, to kind of put that guy. I mean, it doesn't really make any difference, truly, at the end of the day. I mean, if you decide your prime is imprisoning stuff, but you'll take him in any form, shape, or another, that's on the house.
You simply don't request to have your prime changed.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, it's a minor thing. It's truly a role-playing tool only.
I'm actually glad you guys are more focused on this part than some of the other changes, because that means that the other changes seem more acceptable to you, which is good. Okay, so the arts were made available to all to learn, Harkin, so that if and when a house decides to change to only a specific form of essences being accepted into the prime, they have the art's ability to make those tokens. Because ordinarily, a gatekeeper is not going to have the ability to imprison a nightmare. So as a gatekeeper, part of a house that's an imprisoned house, I wouldn't be able to add any essences to the prime unless I found somebody with the art of imprison to imprison my nightmares for me. Now, with the ability to have that art, not only can I imprison, I can actually change the well to reflect the prime's receptive nature of imprisoned nightmares, and still collect a massive amount of energy in that well and still be able to put it into the prime.
Right.
Does that make sense?
If there's any more questions regarding that, Harkin, you can just bring them to me directly. I don't know how much more clear we can be on this, but I can certainly help answer the questions more directly.
He's going
time on this topic.
You can use it on the well. Okay, so that's a good question. So if he changes the well to an imprisoned well, does he still have to imprison the nightmare, or does the well automatically imprison the nightmare when they click on the well?
No, they'll still have to imprison the nightmare. So there'll be steps in there. Obviously, yeah. Is it quicker? Is it faster? No. But it's purely a role-playing tool. Now, what I would do if it was me, quite honestly, if I was an imprisoning house, I would leave the chaos well as it is, and absorb as many essences as I could, fill it up with. And then I would use the imprisoned art to convert the well once it's full to all imprisoned essences within. So you don't have to do it every single time.
There you go. And that answers that question. So if you have any more questions, Harkin or anybody else, relation to prime changing or the new arts to correlate your faith with how you deal with essences, you can contact Wishbringer, or you can email roleplaying at underlight.com.
Right.
But again, it's not a requirement for you to be an imprisoned only house or anything like that. Let's make that very clear. That is a roleplay tool for the players to use if they so choose it. The ability to change the prime is now available to the GMs in order to help you facilitate that roleplay. That's basically what that announcement is, in a nutshell. All right, let's move on.
All right, and I'm trying to figure out what we need to move on to. Let's see, I think we've primarily covered quite a bit of 0.6. Obviously, we have some fun things. Some of you guys may have actually gotten an opportunity to enjoy some of the silly things that I was doing in the city today. One of the new abilities that the GMs have is the ability to give flight, which I can demonstrate here.
Flight, huh? Let's see that. This is a GM only ability right now?
At the moment, yes.
Okay. I imagine that in battle, this will be very interesting then.
Yeah, if we turn it on. All right, so as you can see, the effect there says you feel as light as a feather.
Oh, hello.
And Geo is now able to
levitate off the ground.
And if he hits jump again, he'll go up even higher.
So how high can he go? As high as the ceiling?
As high as the level is mapped out.
Wow. Okay.
And like there's a joke in there somewhere.
And if he sidesteps, you'll be able to stand still. The other thing, not only if he just kind of runs and he hits a wall, he'll literally bounce off of it. If he just walks, and bounces, he'll bounce right off of the wall and go to the next wall. However, if he runs toward the wall and actually pushes forward against the wall, he'll drop to the ground. And you will take fall damage, although it won't be enough damage to collapse you, no matter how low your DS is. The other things about flight is if you look up or if you look down while you're flying, you'll actually ascend or descend. So, Geo, if you could.
So you don't just have to jump. You can actually just look up and down.
Right. So, Geo, if you could stand in front of me and then just sidestep so you're standing still.
It won't let me stand still.
You don't have a sidestep set as a key?
It won't let me stand still at all. Hold on.
All right, so I'll do it.
I'll fix it.
So I'm up in the air right now. But if I was to look down at the ground, you notice how I'm getting closer to the ground.
Oh.
Yeah.
Until my feet touch, and then I'm on the ground. And the same thing if I look up, I'll slowly start ascending up. Obviously, you can jump to go up faster, but you have a little bit. And it's actually kind of fun to try to figure out how to land on certain heights. I can't say for sure that this will be introduced as an art someday into the game, possibly, very likely, I would imagine. But I can't say for sure. It isn't yet. It is not something that is teachable, learnable, or even evocable. It is something that GMs can use as a tool for certain situations.
This is like a GM AoE effect right now?
Right, and it can be localized. It can be very short duration. I mean, we can do some silly things with it, like make it last like 2 seconds, which means, you'd be able to jump significantly higher before you'd start to fall. There's just different things we can do with it. It's just kind of a, fun, neat little thing that we can do. I know that everybody that I was working with today and messing around with it was having a pretty good time exploring some of the rooms that I was in, just flying around from it and seeing it from angles that they've never been able to see in the room before.
Levitation, Christy calls it.
And I got to tell you, if after this is over, if anybody's interested in going on a flight plan, come into the game, hunt down Wishbringer, and I've been having a pretty good time just flying around. I wouldn't say it's an out of character experience, but it's certainly not an in character one so much as to the role play environment. It's just to go in and enjoy something and do something a little different.
We've done flying before if Lost Caves climbing is acceptable. I don't think it's ever been told that you couldn't climb in Lost Caves. I know people do it.
There's been, back in the old days, fighting there and collapsing players and stuff like that was considered a no-no. But obviously we've introduced flight now. So I think this, in the future, especially if this ever becomes an available art, it'll change everything.
So because this might come into question, so let me ask you a question. Let's say somebody has a role play idea for a flying fight arena and they want to set it up. They can email the GM team and say, hey, I want to use the ballroom as a fighting arena and have flight in it. Can you guys help me out with that? would you guys be able and willing to support something like that?
That's one of the things that's obviously neat about having some of these new tools. We have the ability to do, a number of different things, and doing something like that's going to be a pretty cool idea. Maybe, instead of having your standard, battle in the dueling arena with blades, have a flying battle with blades and see who's the best in flight with blades and moving up and down and trying to get somebody. I think that the possibilities are definitely
out there.
Different. Yeah. I mean, we'll try different stuff, and the big thing at the end of the day, the player's going to be having fun.
Have fun. Have fun.
If a blade duel in the flying situation is going to be a good time, and I think some of us, especially I know myself for sure, who spent an extensive amount of time flying in Lost Caves. I've had many blade duels up there, and and done some various battles and situations, and it's been fun. And being able to now have that a little bit more as part of the role play environment across the entire Dreamscape capabilities, we'll be able to do all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, and it'll be kind of cool to fly in areas that were always very high up, but you could never really climb it. So for once, you can actually get up there and see, look down and see what the room looks like from above and stuff. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we were doing earlier today. I was literally practically going in every room of the mount up to the old DOL. And just literally flying around the cliff faces and stuff like that. And it was just neat being able to see the city from an angle that you've never seen it before.
Exactly.
It was a lot of fun. I think there was 4 or 5 players that were going with me, and we were just laughing and having a good time.
That sounds like all right. So the offer's there for you guys. If you're watching, Wishy's going to be in the game later, and if you want to go out on a flying exploration, testing some stuff out, man, seek them out. All right, so let's end with a couple of questions. If the room has any questions for Wishbringer, it doesn't necessarily have to be with the build. Let's get this out there. Get Wishbringer talking a little bit. So I'm going to start you off with the first question, which is what made you come back and be a part of Underlight after all that time had passed? You've been involved for the last 4 years, I think you said.
Right, and actually, Acgeo here's got more years behind the plate than I do. I played Underlight, the original Underlight, since the very beginning. And then I did not play in the SOT EOC era. I did briefly. There was a few times that I made my presence known just with some alter character that I created. But I did not like the concept that I was not able to continue the storyline of my previous characters. And that wasn't just Wishbringer. I had other alts that I ran. But there was always just something that was warming about knowing that Underlight was still going. It was still out there. I just knew it was still there, and I thought that was pretty slick that it was still going. I just knew that it was a feel good thing.
Who the heck is that? Purple Ace.
Somebody's driving Purple Ace in the dev build.
Nice.
But anyway, so when I saw the post that occurred, that said that EOC was going down and that they were done and that was it. It was the end of the line. I put a message up there saying, no, this can't happen. And literally, just the same day we had a website up, we had a forums account up. Me and Gio and some of the original founders team were discussing, the next steps, and next thing I had a license, and we had the development team put together. I had the original administrator of the Underlight servers on the team. It was really cool. We were able to put everything together. Obviously, it took some time, but we built this environment. We got a hold of the original database from the original Underlight days, which obviously is the reason why all these old characters are still able to come back. We had the SOT database. Merged those together, and we had the Clash of Dreams, and that was really it. And then I just couldn't let it go. This was my first MMORPG. I know that for a lot of people it was their first MMORPG, and obviously there have been tens of thousands of them since those early days, and it was important to keep it going. And I couldn't let it go. So here we are.
I like that. And again, a reminder to players, Underlight still really is one of the only games where social interaction is an important part of the advancement of your characters.
Very true. There's only one game. There was only one game like this back when it came out. And the thing is the thing that I always found really cool is, this was like the second or third, depending on who you argue with, MMORPG that came out in existence. And there has yet to be a game, anything like it. There have been some pretty graphical games. Obviously, there's so many much more graphically functional, just beautiful art concept games. But none of them really kind of, grips your soul and holds on to as much as a game that has more social interaction than anything else. And your communication abilities, your ability to role play and be a part of the environment than this game. And that's the reason why I'm still here.
And that's a big kudos to the dev teams over the years. They've maintained a very detailed database. So I want to thank them for what they've done, because what we have today is they're responsible for being able to access that still. So kudos to them. All right, so
look at that. Harkin's in here.
Yeah, Harkin's been in here. I think Harkin.
No, I meant in our dev environment.
Oh, I think. Oh, okay. So I think Harkin is actually one of the players I think that claimed one of the free shirts. I still have 2 shirts left. If you guys who are watching the stream want to get a free #Underlight shirt, you've got to email marketing@underlight.com with the header and footnote of free shirt. Please include your name and address, and I will get those shirts sent out. They're all going out Friday, so get that request in. And then I have a special item that at some point Wishbringer or Geo can raffle off, and it's a limited edition bag with all of the house crests on it and stuff. So keep your eyes out for that. That's going to happen in a stream. Any other questions for Wishbringer or Geo, since we have Geo here? Geo, brief introduction. Who are you and what do you do?
I do nothing.
You're all right.
Oh, you shouldn't have put that out there.
Bye, Felicia. All right.
No, I'm Gio. Everybody knows me as Luigi. I'm also Drama, the managing director. I've been with the project since the beginning, like Brian said, and we basically came together. It was a couple of other individuals as well, and it was a very intense experience from the beginning. We, like Brian said, we had a website running, we had the name running. It was very fun working on the original characters and the entries, and it's been a process since. Wow, what was it, 2014? And we've had our ups, we've had our downs, and everything in between. But hey, we're still going, and we plan to keep on going for the next 10 years, if possible.
Speaking of, that leads me to my second question, or third question, I guess, technically. Where do you guys see Underlight going in the next couple of years? I mean, obviously we want more players. How do we go about doing that? We need players to talk about it, right? We need players to share the videos, share their experiences. That's how we're getting these players back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have Go ahead, Ron.
I just want to thank the PR team, because they have done a phenomenal job getting the streams out there, getting the social media out there, and generating that buzz and interest back into the game. And they've been very essential to basically, bringing back these players, and it's just been amazing.
Yeah, Koi Scribbles, who handles the Twitter and the Instagram, she's been phenomenal at getting. Our Twitter has over 400 followers. And I think, what have we been doing? A month and a half, 2 months now of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the players really grasped onto the Chronicles newspaper, the in-game newspaper for Underlight. We're averaging 20 to 30 articles a month. I mean, that's you guys, the players, putting that stuff to us, and all we're doing is putting it together and presenting you with a finished product. So all that stuff helps generate interest as far as algorithms go when it comes to searching for games or in content and things like that. So thank you to the players for that.
Right.
Definitely.
That's the big thing. All of this is all for nothing. If it isn't for the community. I mean, it was the passion of mine and passion of the team and passion of Geo and passion of the development team and passion of the GMs that helped build the environment. However, none of this is anything without our community, without our players, without all of you who make this worth pushing and worth moving forward. It's just interacting with the players on a daily basis is, it's just amazing experience. And I can't thank the community enough for being a part of this as well.
Likewise. And again, guys, there is a link to the Cafe Press store there. Underlight is free. Everything that is done as far as upgrade wise when it comes to changing out servers, that's all been done by players. You guys support the game. Everything that's collected from the store goes back into the game. It's still a non-for-profit company, so it is about making the game better, enhancing things so that we can add more things for you. So please visit that store, pick up a clock, pick up a shirt, pick up a hoodie or jacket or a flask if you're a drinker, whatever. Buy something with your house on it and flaunt it around, because again, that's all marketing. The more people that see that stuff, the more questions you're going to get, especially with these free shirts I'm giving away. People are going to want to know what hashtag Underlight is. And you, the player, are the first line of defense when it comes to talking about the game.
Right. All right. Well, is there any other questions or anything else that
I don't see anything. You got Chrissy saying it's absolutely amazing how the database integrity has been maintained so long. I think that's about it. So
yeah, and I'm going to give a shout out to Jor Kyron, who's our main administrator from the back end. I mean, our server environment is backed up literally like I think every 15 minutes.
At least 4 times a day. At least.
Well, the entire environment is backed up 4 times a day. I mean, it's just the back end of this environment is extremely robust. I know that Lyra Hawk was just talking about the infrastructure that we have in play is 1,000 times more solid and more robust than they ever even had in the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And that has a lot to do with some of those dev guys that you don't even ever see, that you don't ever interact with, that are just not in the front and the foreground of what's going on, and they are just as critical to this entire project as anything, if not more.
Mm-hmm. So with that said, we're going to end the stream. I want to thank Brian and Gio and whoever those other 2 people are for joining us today. This was to basically give you more feedback on 5 and 6 builds, and let you know we are listening. The team is listening. Your feedback is extremely important to the evolution of the game and the players. So please keep those emails coming. Keep writing those stories for the Chronicles. Visit the store, spread the word, and remember, if you want that shirt, you gotta send me an email. All right. Thank you, everybody. We are going to be signing off. Keep dreaming.
Goodbye, guys.
Yeah.